Hello, it's Alex from Spring Signage, and I'm going to show you in this video how to get started with your Zeebo in the cloud account and your Zeebo for Android license. So here we can see I'm looking at our Android device, and this hasn't been configured at all yet. So what I'm going to do first is we're going to download the Zeebo for Android player from the Spring Signage website. So we're going to go into the browser, and from the Spring Signage homepage we're going to go to Android and then to the archives, and here we can see all the various versions of Zeebo for Android that are available for download. We're going to pick the latest 1.7 release at the time this video was made, so I'm going to click on that and the file will download. And while that downloads, we're going to go into the settings on the device and we're going to make some changes to the settings for it. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that the date and time are correct on the device. So we're going to scroll down to the system date and time setting and ensure that either we've chosen to use the network provided time or we set a time specifically and that our time zone and date format are correct. So here we can see that I'm in the UK, so I'm going to pick London from this list, and it correctly tells me that that's in British summertime at the moment, and the date format is already set for a UK date format, so that's fine for me. So we'll back out of that, and the other thing we're going to check is that our language settings are correct. So language and input, and we're going to check that the language that's selected is the language that we speak. So I'm going to pick English United Kingdom. And then finally we need to allow the Zeebo for Android application to be installed. So to do that we go to Secure Personal Security and we make sure we tick the box that says allow installation of apps from unknown sources, and then OK the warning message that comes up. You can turn this off once you've initially installed Zeebo for Android if having that box ticked bothers you, but then you won't be able to automatically upgrade the application, so it's up to you whether you leave that ticked or not. We recommend you leave it ticked on the basis that you won't have end users installing random applications on this device. So now our download's finished. I'm going to go into the File Explorer application on the device, and then we're going to go to the download folder and we're going to press on our Zeebo for Android 1.7 R60 APK that we downloaded and press install. And this will bring up the list of properties and permissions that Zeebo for Android needs to run. If you're happy with those, then you click install, and once it's installed we click open to run the app, and we'll be immediately taken to the installation wizard. The first thing we need to know is the address of the CMS and the CMS's secret key. Now if you're using Zeebo for Android's cloud hosting solution and you've already signed up for a CMS, you will have received an email with all this information in it, and it will look something like this one. So it's simply a case of entering that information into the settings. So I'm going to just do that now. Now when it comes to the secret key, it's very important that you enter this exactly as it appears in the email, case sensitive. Just like that. Now if you are coming back to this video after you've had the CMS for some time and you can't remember what that secret key is, you can either find it on the settings page in the CMS or you can find it inside your customer portal account against your cloud instance name. Finally, once we've entered all that information, we click connect, and we get a message at the end of the line here that says display added and is awaiting license approval from an administrator. So now what we've done is we've associated this player with the CMS, but we need to go into the CMS and approve access. So all we're going to do, I'm going to swap over so you can see the CMS, and I'll leave up the information to the right hand side here because we're going to need that. So in the CMS there is a URL field. What you're going to need to do is enter that into your browser. So in this case, https your name zeebo.cloud, exactly the same as we entered into the player. And you'll be given an initial username and password. So the initial username will be the same as your instance name, and the password will be randomly generated. We strongly recommend that you change that initial password as soon as you log in. And you can do that by selecting the little avatar at the top right hand side and choosing change password. So now you're logged into the CMS. It's simply a case of going to displays on the left hand menu, and we can see the player that we just added there sitting waiting to be approved. So to approve it, all we have to do is click at the end of the line, click edit, change license display to yes, change its name if we want to, and press on save. So now that player is authorized, when we restart the player on the Android device, it will start downloading the default layout and playing it. So if I swap back over to the player for you, and we'll take the email off because we don't need that anymore. I click on finished. You'll see it says it's connected. We're going to skip activating our license just for now. And if we give that a couple of seconds, it will start playing the default layout from the CMS. And if we want to see what that's actually doing, we can just click on the screen and click status and check that it's showing that the display is licensed, and we're in the trial at the moment, and it's registered, and we can see that it's downloading files at the moment. And while that downloads, what we'll do is just go back over to the CMS, and in the CMS we'll just go and show you the display settings profiles. So from the left hand menu under display settings, you'll see that provided for you are two default profiles for Android and Windows players. You'll want to go into the Android one and click edit, and in here in the email address field enter the email address that you used to purchase your Zeebo for Android licenses with. I'm not going to enter any here, but you would just literally enter the email address that you used. That will be pushed down to the player next time it connects, and it will automatically license at the end of its trial period, so you don't need to do anything further to license the player, assuming you've got licenses free for it. The rest of the settings in here are relatively self-explanatory. The collection interval is the other one that you may want to adjust. That's how frequently the player connects to the CMS for updated content. You should ideally set this as high as you feel comfortable setting it. Certainly for production use, we wouldn't recommend setting that lower than 5 minutes. But you may, if your content changes infrequently, want to set it even higher. The higher you set it, the lower amount of bandwidth the player will use, and the more bandwidth you'll have free on your account to use for actual content update. That's it basically. So once you've made your changes, save it, and the player will update with those when it next connects. And if we go back over to the player, we can see that's now showing its default layout, and that means that the player's all connected correctly. If you want some further assistance after this with creating layouts and so on, then have a look at the Riverside Cafe example in the Zeebo manual, which you'll find linked down at the bottom side of the CMS down here, and that will take you through a worked example of creating a layout and scheduling it.